Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson, the psychologist from Canada and the author of the best-selling The 12 Rules for Life, had a saying that really blew me away. I mean, his YouTube videos are very powerful, and I'll get into that a little bit. His saying was essentially that your mission in life is to take on the biggest or the highest burden that you could bear. And obviously that's a positive burden, because some people burden themselves down by just, crazy or irrational stuff. But I want to explain why that's so powerful and get a little bit into some of the implications. So with this life to be of service, like I was going to call this podcast, How Many People Can You Cover? Because what happens is you have to earn people's trust. Like, people are scared, and, we all want to make sure that we survive. And after we survive, we want to make sure that we thrive. So if you're just like trying to take advantage of people, or if you're superficial, or if you're a player or whatever it is, you're not going to get that far with successful people, because successful people have a high bar and a high BS detector to be able to want to associate with you. So you have to really provide value. That's why Jordan Peterson is saying that your job is to take on the highest thing that you could bear. Like, there's a famous saying that to win the heart of a child, it's the same thing with a spouse. To win the heart of a spouse, to win the affections or the heart or the love of a really quality person is kind of like one of the prime, most beneficial things in the entire world, and one of the hardest to do. That's why they say, like, anything that's really worth having is not easy to get, because if it was easy to get, everybody would have it. I mean, I do believe in abundance. I don't believe in win-lose. I believe in win-win, but that's a separate topic. But I think that Jordan Peterson, he's very powerful, because he talks in depth about, taking responsibility, and about intellectual, challenge, and about habits. And I'm putting my own spin on it, because he probably uses different terminology. But I want to say something else about Jordan Peterson. I realize that I talk fast, but it's only because I have a lot of stuff to get done. Like Gary Vaynerchuk says, he spends the entire day, he doesn't waste a minute. When you're a high achiever, and I'm not at the level of Gary Vaynerchuk or even close, but you just have so much energy because you have so much that's going on. You have a lot of positive momentum. You have good habits that you developed, and you don't want to waste a minute. Like, to put your energy into the world takes a lot of maturity, because, as I said, like in another recent podcast, there's a lot of negative forces. I don't mean just like other people and their negativity. I mean also like, dark matter, entropy. Most of the universe is more intent on breaking things down to actually build things up. Like, to sit in bed and do nothing is easy, at least in the short term. But to actually get stuff done and to build things is hard. Now, Naval Ravikant, who's also brilliant, he said something recently, which is that basically all of success boils down to one thing, which is basically the marshmallow test, being able to delay gratification. So basically what that means is kind of like putting true value into the world. Like, people use different terminology. Gary Vaynerchuk talks more about like creating value in the world, hustle. Evan Spiegel talks about believe. But these are all kind of like similar ideas on the same thing, which is basically like putting your energy into the world, putting it into other people, and then getting a return back. There's a famous YouTube channel that I'm watching, which the name escapes me because I watch so many, and plus I just started watching it. Because my life is really about learning and then applying the learning. Like, I spend a certain amount of my time every day, and I don't strictly program it, but I have general parameters in my mind of learning new things, growing, having a growth mindset, and then applying it. Because if all you do is learn, but you don't apply it, then it just doesn't get you anywhere. But if you're applying stuff that is not, relevant to today, I talk so much, probably too much, because I'm on the phone a lot and I run a company, that my voice gives out. I wish I had a stronger voice. But Naval Ravikant says that basically all success is just learning to delay gratification, which basically means, the marshmallow test is like the kids that give up one marshmallow to get two in the future. Those are the best predictor of success out of anything. And it makes sense, because people that just live for the now, if you're into like just, pleasure or alcohol or drugs or sex or whatever it is, and I'm not saying that, sex is bad. I'm not saying that all pleasure is bad, but it has to be moderated. Like, you have to be in control of yourself and in control of your emotions, rather than your emotions being in control of you. A lot of people are not in control of their own mind. Like, their mind runs away with them. They get petty, they get nasty, they get greedy, and none of those things pay off. So one other thing I want to say about Jordan Peterson, which is, And I realize I'm talking fast, but I got a lot to do. But I also believe in being mindful in the moment, because if you go too fast, then you don't really put your full attention on things, and that's bad also. So I'm talking fast, but sometimes I talk very slow, because I am mindful about being mindful. So, but right now I have some other things I need to get done. So I don't need to, but I choose to, because language is important. You shouldn't say you need to do it, otherwise you feel like a victim. You should say that I choose to do it, or something along those lines. So getting back to Jordan Peterson, he says that he just came out of rehab. He was battling for like a year or two, I think a year, in 3 different countries or so, opiate addiction. And, he's a lot more humble now. Like, I think he always had the great service mentality, but he was maybe a little bit arrogant about it. I'm not in his heart, so I don't know, but I think he was a little bit, just his language, kind of like, well, I can do it and you can't. And I think we all get humbled in life. I've been humbled a lot in life. My life has been very hard. I think a lot of people's have, but I came into the world also with a kind soul, I think an evolved soul, but also maybe like Jordan Peterson, a little bit like, I'm smarter than you. And I've been knocked down plenty of times to realize that I'm not smarter than anyone. And if I think I am, I just outsmart myself. So I think Jordan Peterson is learning what I've learned also, the true wisdom, like Jean-Paul Exupéry says in The Little Prince, doesn't come from the mind, it comes from the heart, it comes from the soul. Like, I write my books on the spirituality of success because success is not really so much physical. If it was, the strongest people physically would be the most successful. Like in the Wild West days, it was if you had the fastest gun, or in prehistoric days if you could beat up everybody or just grab, whatever you wanted in life. But, today it's become more mental strength. Like physical combat has given way to mental combat. But I think mental combat is starting to give away to spiritual. And spiritual combat is kind of like an oxymoron because there's no combativeness in spirituality. But it's kind of like the more we understand the spiritual, the more success we have, because the physical laws are great, like gravity is a real thing. But the mental laws, mindset is you could overcome a lot of physical disadvantages if you have the right mindset, and you could overcome a lot of mental difficulties if you have the right spiritual understanding. They say like a miracle is just a move to a higher mindset. So that's where I'm coming from.